Hello everyone. It's been a while I haven't done a YouTube because it's quite difficult to keep doing a lot of videos, but I think I was due to do one with all the UCI changes coming on next year to the World Cup, so I'm gonna explain you a little bit what I understood and what's happening for next year. And at the end of the video, you can give me your opinion on where the sport's going, what direction it is taking, and if you like it or not, and why. And I will pick up 2 comments to send away some goggles, gloves, some stuff like this. So it will be interesting to know what you are feeling about it. And I'm gonna give you my opinion now. So the first change that I'm gonna talk about is the teams. There will be a total amount of 20 with 15 UCI World Series teams that are the first 15 ranking with the points of every rider they own. So I think you can have 4 riders of each category. So 4 elites, 4 women, 4 juniors, 4 junior women, if I'm right. So a total, a maximum of 10, which is a lot of riders, but I think it's to allow maybe teams to recruit more, even though it's really, really costful now to have more riders because it's expensive. But you also have 5 wildcards. So to complete the amount of 20, you will have 5 more wildcards. That will be based on who their riders are, their structure, if they're invested in a cool truck, pit, if their image is big, if their brand is big, if their investment in the World Cup is significant or influent, or if it's just shit. So that will be pretty interesting to see who's going to try to do more to be in those wildcards. I know as a fact that, for example, Specialized Gravity, because we only have 3 elite guys, and Jordan was hurt half of the season, so let's say 2 with Finn and I. We are not on the top of the UCI World Series teams. We may be like around between 8th and 10th position, which is like quite difficult because we have one of the best teams, I think, and we have 2 really good riders, or 3 with Jordan. But I think they want to push the teams to get more juniors and more women's, which is why some teams like Norco apparently will have like almost 10 riders next year, which is their strategy to be in the World Series team. So if you are part of these 20 teams, you can do race World Cups no matter what, no matter how many UCI points you have. However, if you're not part of these teams, you have to be ranked in the top 50 UCI for the riders, which is quite difficult because if you take like all the good guys, like it's quite difficult to be in the top 50. It's a lot of points. Or you will have to be national champion, continental champion, or world champion, which is quite difficult. And most of these guys are already in World Tour or World Series team. So the access will be way more difficult, which is, in my opinion, really positive because it is a World Cup. Even though people for decades now have been able to race World Cups for fun almost and just for the experience, I think he had taken a bad turn the last 2-3 years. We were too many riders queuing hours to do laps in practice, and the track was destroyed. Like everything was just a bit too much and not as pro as a World Cup should be. A really cool new feature, let's say, to this new rule book will be that every big team, so a World Series team, will be able to have a development team. So a team, let's say, that has elites but mainly young people like juniors and younger, to develop talents, to recruit people from around the world hopefully, and then when they're ready, swap them from that development team to the World Series team in order to do World Cups and maybe gain experience and maybe not do a full season but do like half of the season or the races that are close to the riders' home, things like this, to maybe like keep the opportunities alive of people coming up and people not necessarily being able to race World Cups and stuff like this. So I think most of the fans, let's say, were concerned that stories like Andy Kolb, Benoit Coulange, those guys that matured really late wouldn't be able to win World Cups one day. I think it will still be possible with that feature, which is really cool, and also it will allow brands to invest, let's say, a little bit more on young people and try to find small and young gems and maybe create some loyalty and some good legacy, let's say, for the team. So I know, like, for example, us at Specialized, we have Gravity, which is like the really big team that needs results and is really race focused. But there's also Genes with Crispy, Jambi, Rosa, Ari. That's it. That's it for now. I know there's another rider or two coming up in the Genes team program for next year. So this is really cool because, for example, Crispy is on the verge of being qualifying or not at the World Cups, but he will be able to race smaller races and maybe probably fight for the wins on those races, and select only the World Cups he wants to do to try and perform and progress at his own pace instead of coming and just like missing out, because you know if you don't qualify you miss a lot of the race weekend, which is like where the real deal is. So you don't get the experience that you need to improve and get there eventually. So the transfer between the recruitment team, development team, and the main teams will be open all season. So it's pretty much a freestyle, open buffet. You can do it as you wish. So that's pretty cool. And hopefully I'm not traded down because I'm not too slow or yeah, things like this. So the UCI or Warner Bros has a big challenge because they bring a lot of new rules, change the sport quite massively, let's say, with the new rules and new vision they have. And one of their main goal was they have to develop another race series that's a little bit lower, maybe more accessible. That would be called Continental race series. And I don't know exactly what's the deal with that yet, where they are, or if they will do it, or how. That's something we need answers, because a lot of teams are counting on this, and a lot of riders also are counting on this. So it will be really important to have some updates soon. But it will be like a race series, pretty much a World Cup series, but with a little bit less level, less rules to access to and to be able to race, and less way less strict about how you have to do things, pay fees and whatever. So it'll be a kind of really good access to potentially move up to World Cups. The way to move up to World Cups from the Continental Series is, if you do a top 5 to one of those races, you can have one World Cup that you choose, where you can race as a wild card. And at the end of the series, so the full season, if you're in the top 5 overall, you can do the full World Cup season the year after. So that's really important to create an interest for riders to go race that series. And I think it will become a really big series because a lot of riders will go there. A lot of people will start, maybe they'll have younger categories and juniors, maybe to make it interesting for for teams also to put some money in that series. And so that's really cool. I think hopefully there will be some good interest from World Cup teams to also recruit people from that series that deserve a spot in the good team, like World Series team, the World Cups. And I'm not sure if the World Tour, I'm not sure if the World Series rider, like me, will be able to race the Continental Series, because if, I don't know, some people start to race all of the races for bonuses or for whatever, because they're just like, all that they want to do is get some prize money, that will take away some interest from the Continental Series. You know, they need to be like separated, and we cannot go and race that, I think, because they have to race, get points, get exposure, fight for the wins, and we just have to race World Cups, you know, like we cannot eat at every table. So one of the main points of next year for us World Series teams will be that the qualifying format will change back to what it was, which is way more enjoyable, I would say. Like the semifinals, it was cool in a way because you can score more points, whatever, but it was so demanding mentally, physically, and time-wise. Like, we had massive days, you know, it was a bit too much. So race weekend was feeling so long. And now that we have 10 rounds next year, it would have been so, like, we would have been cooked by race half season, you know. So you have to keep in mind that we've always had less races than Formula 1, motocross, MotoGP, all of those sports that everybody compares us to, but it's pretty much a race week. MotoGP, they come maybe ride like 2 days, 2.5 max. They come private jet, do few laps, and like we have so much travel, so much hassle to get to like shitholes because we are like really really far in the mountains, and we have track walk, we have full days of practice, another full day of riding and qualifying and semifinals, another day of practice and finals. And after all this riding, we always do track walk, so like the days start pretty much from 8 to 7 or 8, so it's like really really long days, and it's not so light. And having more rounds, we needed to have a little change that will lighten up the schedule, I think. So coming back to the new schedule, we will have one qualifying for the men. I'm talking for the men right now. That will take 20 riders. If you're not making the cut for the 20 riders, you will have the option to go in Q2, which will be like last chance qualifier, where 10 riders will be adding on to the finals for the day after. So a total of 30 riders like it is right now. But in, let's say, if you're a good rider or if you deserve your spot in finals from being in the top 20, you won't have to go back up and do another run for the finals. So that's really interesting and really positive, I think, for next year. The thing is, if you miss, for example, I won the World Cup this year. If we would have kept the same rules, I would have been protected all season next year. No matter what happened in semifinals or qualifying, I would have been in finals. And now that's not happening anymore. No one is protected, so if you don't make the cut, you have a problem, mechanical crash in the first qualifying, and you also have a problem in the second qualifying, or you're just too slow and don't make the top 10, you just won't be in finals. So no protection, so that's really cool. I think the sport needed something like this, even though it's quite tricky for us that had the privilege, and the brands sponsoring us had the privilege to always be secured and sure to be in finals and have some exposure. Now it won't be the case, so it's up to us to make it to the finals, which is a little bit challenging, but super cool, I think, for everybody else too that wasn't protected. So it will be more fair to everyone. And I think if you're a good rider and if you're battling for the World Cup overall, you should not miss the final. Like, you still have 2 chances to make the cut, so it is still quite fair. And for the women, I think it's 10 in Q1 and 5 in Q2. So they're adding 5 women in finals for next year. So it'll be 15 women and 30 men. And for the juniors, it's still like pretty much similar as now. Just 1 qualies, 20 riders for the men and 10 for the women. So that is quite a big change, but stays quite similar. When you watch your race on Sunday, it will be quite similar. And the points for qualies will be 50, like it used to be. No points for Q2. So if you fucked up your Q1, you just missed out the opportunity on getting 50 or 20 or whatever points. And 250 points for finals, which is right now what it is. So I think it's a really good thing. I really like that point. Another point will be choosing a carrier number for people that have been winning at least 1 round of the World Cup before. So, for example, so many guys actually are concerned by this rule, but you can choose your number that you will just keep with yourself, put on your jerseys, on your bike, do cool stuff with, merchandising, whatever. Your favorite number for your whole career, you can choose it from now on. So only people that have been winning once minimum. So that's a lot of people when you think about it, but I think Gwyn, which is the most winner active guy at the moment, will be choosing first. Amori second, and I think I'm third. So I don't know what the 2 in front of me will choose, but I'm pretty sure my number will be available. In the comments, actually, you can also tell me what number you guys think I should get and why. That would be a cool way for me to see what's the vibe in the people watching the sport. Personally, I have 3 options that I really like at the moment. I will tell you maybe soon what it is, but I'm really shared between all of those 3 options because they're all sick. So I'm really curious to see what you guys think. And the number 1 will be only for the World Cup overall leader. So for example, now the whole 24 season I had the number 1 because I won the 23 season, and I should have had number 1 the whole 25 season. which was cool, but it's not really a thing anymore. So only if I win the first round of 2025, I'll be able to race with number 1. If not, I keep my number that I chose. So that's pretty cool. So we'll have 10 World Cups next year, 1 World Champs, Crankworks, hardline, things that other people would do. I want to do hardline, but we'll see about that in February, I think. Only 3 more World Cups than last year, but it's still like quite a big difference when you think about it for teams, for all the budget that it will add on to move people around and then book places, whatever. It's quite a big thing, because I think that's also why some teams are closing. Like, it's getting more expensive to register your team, more expensive to have accommodations for your team. Like, everything is quite crazy, and when we go back to places, they know we're coming back and they raise the prices, so it's quite expensive to go on a full season for a race team. So 2 new venues. We have Lenzerheide back, but we have a new venue in America, which is Lake Placid and La Tuile. I've personally been to La Tuile some weeks ago to try the new track and give them my advice with Loris and Milan Falque, another French guy, to make sure, let's say, that they will be ready for when the race comes, and change some little things that were a little bit too enduro and too squarey. So really happy that they invited us to do that, and really happy that I got to see what they've done. It's looking insane, so I'm really excited for this new venue. They still have the finish part of the track to do and some other things, but it was unreal to ride. So that race will be amazing. And Lake Placid, I have no idea, but I heard it was cool. But we're not where the cross country is. We're on the other side of the mountain. So the whole season is quite weird once again. I don't really like the fact that from July to August we have no races pretty much. So there's a summer break of 6 weeks. I don't understand. Like, it's cool for us because we get to actually enjoy summer more than we used to. But it's kind of delaying a lot the end of the season into also races and areas of the world where it's fucking freezing. You go to Quebec in the middle of October, it's so cold. Like, last year was so cold, shit weather. Like, what are you thinking about? Like, this is so dumb. And we have time to finish the season maybe a month earlier, or at least 2-3 weeks earlier, and they let it drag on for no reason. Or give me a reason, please. So that's pretty annoying, pretty dumb and useless, I think. Sorry, but finishing, like, the start of the season is like pretty much 1 race, 1 week off, 2 races back to back, which is Loudanvielle and Léogang. Loudanvielle on a Sunday, driving all the way to Léogang, which is like 16 hours drive, almost, or even more. And the race in Léogang is on Saturday. So we have 1 day less of recovery, like it's not a full week. So that's like also pretty stupid. And then 1 week off, and then 2 more races back to back, and then 6 weeks off. And then pretty much all the races at the end of the season back to back to back to back to back, with travels to the overseas, like jet lag, whatever. So it doesn't really make sense. I don't know who's making the logistics at Warner's, but please send me call me. So that will be a tricky point to manage. Freshness will be quite important when you just have all these races back to back and with all the travel in between. So unfortunately, we're not MotoGP of F1 guys now. We don't have the private jets every weekend, but we are ecological, so that's good. So yeah, this is about race calendar, which is pretty cool to have more races, even though it's not fully smart. So now I'm gonna reply to some of the questions you guys asked me on my stories on Instagram. I'll try to answer like the main ones about what we've just talked about, and maybe some other ones in French at the end, or some other ones about random stuff that you guys wanted to know. So thanks for listening about the changes. If you have questions or opinions, you can ask it, and we'll find some. We will pick 2 winners. We'll pick 2 comments, and then I like them and maybe like talk about it. The questions now. So for me, juniors are really important to the World Cup. They are, especially now, just as fast as elite men's. Like, it's so impressive to see how good they are. So we need the World Cup to have the juniors. It's quite good also to see for us how they race before we go to race, see the track. Like we have some little things that we observe from them, and I think it's just normal to have a category before you actually go to the World Cup. Otherwise, it's too much of a big gap. And I think for juniors that are really fast, like for example, the top 5, top 10 at the moment, you need to ride World Cups so you can improve or progress, find the rhythm straight away, so you don't waste time, let's say, and you get straight away in the first year elite and try to win, like as I will do, like Jackson did, like Jordan did. It's pretty important. The 3-person podium for me is a tricky one. I understand where they're coming from because every sport is 3-person on the podium. So some people, when they see 5 guys on the podium, they're like, "What the hell is that?" But it's been like that for ages in downhill. It's quite historical. It's quite unique. So I really liked that. It also gives exposure to some guys not yet in the top 3, but doing podiums like 4th or 5th, which is quite an achievement. And all the stats in the world, in people's career will have to be readjusted now, because my first podium ever was 5th in Windham when I was 18. So now it doesn't really count anymore. So it's really like weird. I don't know why they changed it. I don't think it was like necessary. And it's taking away some exposure for riders. Like for example, me, my bonus now finishes at top 3. So I'm quite sad. Like even if it's only maybe €1,000 or a couple of €1,000, it's still like cool. And you stand on the podium, you're like, your team is proud of you. You have photos. It's like, it was cool. So that's pretty sad. I think it's a disadvantage to miss on Q1 and have to do Q2 because of the stress it brings to not make the cut, and just to have to go back up, warm up again, do another run. Like physically you just use a way more ammo, and you just have a little bit of a longer day, which is like that maybe extra 2 hours. Amaury or Loris or Finn will be recovering or track walk or things that I won't be able to do, so they already have one step ahead of me, let's say, for finals. So it will be quite important. There's also a problem of the weather in downhill, especially this year. There was like again like so many weather changes and influence on the results, so I don't know how it's going to play out for the qualifying. Hopefully it won't impact it too much, but it will be tricky to miss Q1. So all of the new formatting for my winter preparation, I think, won't affect it too much. For sure, I will readjust some things. I will probably try to have a better endurance base to get through the whole season a bit more constant and not have big dips of shape and fitness. So I don't know, it's the first time we have that many races, but for sure I will also think that we will focus on specific rounds and not try to win every round, because sometimes, for example, this year I was really upset at myself for being 7th in Léger when the weather was just like chaotic, but in the end the team and we were talking about it and they were like pretty proud of what I did for managing the championship. So it's only 7th, but it's still like a lot of points, and not trying too hard and ended up 20th, which would have cost me way more on the overall. So maybe target more which races I want to win and be okay with a bit of like a top 6, top 8 guy results, which will not be amazing but still count a lot for the overall. So yeah, that will be just the main changes in my preparation, I think. New venues for 2026 or the future that I would like to see. There's plenty, to be fair. There's so many places that I've been riding and that I think could welcome a World Cup. It's difficult because it's, I think, a lot of politics, a lot of money. Like if you want to host a World Cup, I don't want to talk shit, but it's a lot of hundreds of thousands to invest. So I don't know how much of a smart investment that is. But it's not for every ski resort to be able to do that. I would like to race in more exotic places, let's say, that have a good scene. Like for example, I think South America would be really cool, and I think the the fan base there is really big. I know for cross country, it's like what makes cross country more watched than downhill is because Brazil and some countries in the South America are so big. So if we can go and reach these guys, we smoke cross country once again. So that'll be good. But for example, Japan, I just been to Japan and it's so nice. Like so many ski resorts, it's beautiful. It's such a different vibe, and biking there or mountain biking is only starting. So there's a lot of potential for the country, for the market, for the ski resorts. It would be cool to go and develop that. But I think for places like this, the Warner Bros needs to soften their conditions to be able to access those places, because it's not so attracting to have these massive fees, for a ski resort to do that. So we'll see. Queenstown will be sick. Queenstown is one of my favorite places in the whole world, so I would love to race there one before I retire. So we'll see about that, but I don't think it's in the papers. And also maybe, I don't know, maybe a place in like the mountains in Africa or something pretty cool. But for example, there's no way, because there's no market, no community, and not a single place in Africa that will pay $500,000 to have a World Cup or more. So we'll see about that. I think we're going step by step. Hopefully we have more people watching the World Cups, more sponsors that are not from the industry coming and investing in teams and allowing to grow. And that will be like how we can make it better, but I don't know yet. So far I haven't seen so much changes. So my goals for 2025 will be kind of get a revenge or redemption on World Champs, because last year was a really, I almost touched it a little bit. I felt good all week. I was feeling like I could win, and I just threw it away in one of the last part of the track while I was up. So it was quite difficult to accept. Even though Loris won, it was like still a big disappointment for me. So hopefully try to redeem myself, even though the new track or the track for World Champs this year is quite different from Andorra and quite tricky as it is Champery. And it's just like, as it is right now, I don't think it's the best racetrack. It's just like one line. It's really fun and really unique, but it's for a racetrack, it's not super interesting. So I will have to find a way to make it like my track, or that I can be competitive on it. Last year I did 3 runs and smoked myself, so it was not so good. So I have some work to do on this one. And then defend my World Cup title. It's been 2 years in a row now, so it would be insane to do 3, but it will be difficult for sure, because Jackson will be back, Jordan will be back, Amaury is now on fire again, so it will be quite difficult. Finn also is coming into an age now, he'll be 26, like he's really good every race, so it'll be tricky. And I would just like to be on 5 World Cup titles like Nico Vuilloz and Aaron Gwyn. That would be a sick achievement, so that would be a goal too. Hopefully win again in France. Léger this year, I was really pissed about my performance, the weather, Amaury being so good on the wet, so try to do that, improve on the wet. That would be a really big point for me, and just keep loving it and keep chilling, and stay injury free will be quite cool too. En français maintenant, donc désolé de te décevoir, mais on était en full alu jusqu'en 2022. Proto, mix alu, mix carbone pendant 2 ans là, qui était une tuerie. Et Spé, il travaille sur un vélo de production du coup qui reprend un peu le vélo qu'on a en ce moment, qui sera full carbone. Du coup, pas d'alu pour moi. On va un peu contre la tendance. On a été une des premières marques à revenir vers l'aluminium, et une des premières marques à repartir vers le carbone, donc on verra ce que les autres y font. Après il y a des marques qui ont toujours fait carbone ou toujours fait aluminium, mais il y en a plein qui ont quand même changé entre temps, donc ça sera du carbone prochainement. C'est vrai qu'Amaury et moi on a été pas mal là ces années quand on était tous les deux en forme. Je pense qu'on était dur à battre, donc c'est cool déjà. Et il y a plein de bons riders qui sont là, qui sont à la limite de nous défoncer. Donc je pense qu'il y en a qui l'auraient déjà fait s'ils devaient le faire. Mais dans ceux qui vont arriver, je pense que Jackson Goston, bien sûr, il a ce talent qui est incroyable. Après, je sais pas comment il va arriver à progresser parce qu'il est déjà à un niveau de fou, donc à voir s'il arrive encore à progresser. Asa Vermette, truc de fou. Le junior américain première année, c'est un truc de fou. La vitesse qu'il a. Après, pareil, je sais pas quelle est la marge de progression par exemple par rapport à un Max Alran qui on dirait a une marge de progression infinie alors qu'il est déjà trop fort et très rapide. Donc je pense que dans ces trois-là, il y en aura qui vont vraiment nous défoncer. Finn, je pense qu'il va vraiment trouver aussi le truc pour être devant tout le temps. Mais ouais, principalement dans les jeunes, je dirais ces trois-là. Max, même Till, il va être chaud. Asa et Jackson. Ok, so l'enduro IDR pour moi c'est pas ma priorité, j'aime pas trop ça en fait. Pour être honnête avec vous, j'aime bien l'enduro quand je pars avec mes copains, faire une petite sortie vraiment tranquille, mais quand il faut monter longtemps, faire des sentiers qui sont pas forcément gratifiants ou une récompense de la montée qui était super longue parce que tu choisis pas ce que tu fais et il faut aller vite, il faut pédaler, il faut se fumer. C'est pas mon préféré. Donc moi je préfère rouler pour le fun en e-bike ou en enduro, mais pas en course. Et ça a un peu des mecs qui coupent les virages, c'est un peu une mentalité moins cool que la descente quand même, donc j'aime un peu moins. Je vais faire quelques questions rapides parce qu'il y en a plein qui sont cool au final. Quelle est la voiture passion que tu préfères de Guilhem? Pour être honnête, j'aime vraiment la M3 CS que j'ai là depuis un petit moment qui est folle parce que c'est la voiture un peu qui fait tout. Donc ça marche, ça craque, ça fait un beau bruit, c'est beau à voir. Ça se déconnecte en propulsion. C'est 4 roues pour l'Andorre, enfin c'est de la folie, j'adore. Après, c'est quand même, ça fait peur de la taper dans un mur, donc quand je fais des drifts, je fais quand même gaffe et je suis un cassos. Je pense que c'est les G 2022, il y en a plein qui sont incroyables de moments, mais les G 2022, ça a quand même ça a une petite touche en plus parce que c'était incroyable. Le contexte d'arriver blessé, de gagner en France, le public, tout, c'était fou et je m'en souviendrai toute ma vie. Et le pire moment, je pense, c'était genre en 2017, quand il pleuvait à Lourdes. Je me suis blessé à Léogang, j'avais la jambe dans le sac, et j'étais à l'arrêt total. Tout le début de saison, j'étais une bite. Ouais, j'ai déjà pensé à arrêter le vélo parce que j'ai 30 ans maintenant, donc j'ai réfléchi un petit peu de temps en temps, mais j'ai quand même encore plein de choses que j'aimerais faire. Je me régale encore, donc je viens de re-signer 3 ans avec SP. Donc pendant les 3 prochaines années, déjà, vous allez devoir me voir. Et on verra, mais je pense pas faire une minard. Je pense que je ferai d'autres choses avant et on verra. Quand je serai prêt, quand j'avance plus, j'arrête. Donc merci pour toutes les questions que vous avez posées sur Instagram. Il y en a plein qui sont cool, mais que je peux pas tout répondre. Peut-être qu'on refera une vidéo ou quelque chose. Mais il y a plein de questions qui sont cool. Sur Instagram, les DM, désolé, je peux pas répondre aussi à tous les trucs, sinon je passe ma vie sur le téléphone, déjà que c'est le cas. Merci d'avoir regardé la vidéo et on se voit bientôt, j'espère. Tout va bien. Je vais essayer de travailler sur un petit edit japonais que j'ai filmé avec une caméra là, mais ça va pas être fou. C'est plus guide touristique que riding, parce qu'il n'y avait pas trop de riding. Mais merci, à bientôt. Joyeuses fêtes, tsuzu.